Hey guys, welcome back to the Falco. It's official, Thomas Frank is the new Tottenham Hotspur manager and he will be joined by most of his team, which I think is very good news in terms of continuity for him and how quickly he can install his ideas and hit the ground running. So as a result of the news finally being announced officially by the club, I wanted to do a quick video to look at my minimum expectations and my assumptions for what a good first season looks like under Thomas Frank. So we know this is season number 1 for Thomas Frank, and it's been said before, managers coming in, what's gone before is not their fault and it's got nothing to do with them. But that doesn't mean that the kind of institutional memory and the history of the football club doesn't matter to the next person coming in. So even though Thomas Frank has only just arrived, patience at Tottenham might be very, very short, and that is something that concerns me. Obviously, we've just pivoted from a manager who's won us a European trophy, and Thomas Frank is coming in to a very divided fan base where some fans are delighted with his appointment and they really do see the value and the benefit. There are a lot of fans who are upset about Ange Postecoglou being sacked, and there are other fans who are not enthused by the choice of manager. They don't think that Thomas Frank is the guy to take Tottenham to the next level. So if you're coming off the back of somebody that just won you a European trophy and you're looking for a certain profile of manager or a certain level of previous experience, Thomas Frank might not be what you were expecting or what you were hoping for. So it's entirely possible that the fan base will be very impatient with him. We've seen that previously when Nuno was in charge. Very little patience for him in terms of he wasn't the choice people wanted and he didn't play the football that people wanted, and so he was gone very quickly. And similarly, Nuno probably didn't have the dressing room. He was coming into a difficult dressing room, and it's possible that a lot of these players that are currently at Spurs might well be hurting from the sacking of Ange Postecoglou as well. So not a lot of patience, and we know that Thomas Frank, in his 2 main jobs that he's had, his first team jobs at Bromby and at Brentford, doesn't start very well. And my feeling is that is because he is trying to instill multiple systems, and they will, there will be different multiple tactical approaches within the same game, but also in between different games based on opponents. So that can be something that takes a little while to embed and to really get players used to. So that might explain some of the reasons why he has slow starts at his club. It could be a situation where that can really be troublesome for him at Tottenham. And even if you were to take pre-season, we could see very early on people getting a bit jittery. We've got a Super Cup against a fantastic Paris Saint-Germain team. Now, I know we'll be further ahead in our pre-season preparations than they will. They may only just be back, but they have all the riches in the world in terms of the playing staff that's available to them. They've just won the Champions League. We've seen what a great side they can be. And going into that game, it could go one of 2 ways. Thomas Frank wins that game and we play quite well and everybody is suddenly feeling more positive and a little bit more on board. That result doesn't go our way, and all of a sudden people are, saying all the things they're already saying, which is, he's not cut out to manage at this level. He's never done it before. He's not got the experience, etc., etc. So that is a cause for concern for me. I really do hope that the fan base get behind him and give him some time. It would be unfair to judge him that early on, but you could certainly see a situation where, a pre-season with a Super Cup, and then I think we're playing Arsenal as well and a couple of other Premier League teams. Difficult results even in pre-season matches, and that's what for me the Super Cup is. It's a glorified pre-season friendly, albeit with a trophy attached to it. The pressure could be on very early on before we've even kicked a ball in the Premier League. So as I said, I hope people do get on board and they do give him some time, but by the same token, if he does really well, he will be buying and earning himself credit with the fan base. If it doesn't go our way, then things could go sour very quickly. So The lack of patience at Tottenham Hotspur is very evident, and I really hope that doesn't affect this manager, in his project and what he's trying to achieve. What are my minimum expectations? I'm thinking that Tottenham Hotspur, because it is Thomas Frank's first season, regardless of what's gone before, is top 8. So European spots, I think Tottenham need to be in the European places in the league at the end of the season. One of the reasons for the sacking of Ange was the terrible league performance and the prioritisation of the Europa League, and so we need to rise up the league. And it feels like with the cost of our squad, our playing staff, we need to be in that top 8. Now, I'm being quite generous by saying top 8. I think a lot of people would want it to be higher than that, but all of that will depend on what else is happening, how deep we go in the Cups, how deep we go in the Champions League. So for me, the minimum expectation is top 8. You'd want a deep run in at least one of the domestic competitions. Possibly the Carabao Cup is the one that you could prioritise a bit more, but then again, it does kind of overlap a bit more with the key early stages of the Champions League, and you might expect that Tottenham won't go particularly deep into the knockouts of the Champions League. So you never know. It could be actually the FA Cup is one that we could prioritise because we might be out of the Champions League by then. But you definitely want us to show what we didn't show under Pochettino, which we've not done under many managers, which is to go on good runs in the domestic cups. That obviously is caveat by the draw. If you end up playing the big teams, the Liverpools, the the Man Cities, the Chelseas, the Arsenals, whoever it might be, the big teams who are also going to put out strong squads and who are ahead of us in their projects. You could end up going out early, but you're going to want to see good performances, or you're going to want to see a really good run in the domestic competitions. And then in terms of the Champions League, as I just mentioned, Tottenham need to be getting out of the group phase. Obviously, that might not be the hardest thing in the world with the new format and with how many teams actually do go forward. But yeah, out of the group phase through the knockout round, if needs be, through the playoff round, and into the knockouts. That would be, again, an expectation for Tottenham to get through and to navigate that and to get into that second part of the Champions League. And then what happens after that in knockout football will be, and that won't just be down to the manager and the coaching staff, that will be down to the recruitment, injuries, and all the other factors, fatigue, that come into the season as it plays on. So that's really what I'd like to see. Top 8 European football guaranteed for the following season of any stripe. Good run in the domestic cups, but depending on the draw, and get out of the group phase and through the playoff phase of the Champions League into the knockouts. It all sounds doable. It sounds very doable, but you can never preempt what's going to happen during a season, and we really do feel like we're at that inflection point now where we need to invest in the first team. I can definitely see there being continued turnover in some of the more senior players at the club. That will bring down the age profile of new players coming in, I would expect. And what that will also do is that will change the amount of experience that there is in that first team. But it does feel like we do need to invest in a few players that walk directly into that first team and raise the bar, raise the level. So let's see what we do over the summer window. I've talked about Thomas Frank's slow start and why that's an area of concern for me, but by the same token, how he could turn that to his favour by putting down some good performances. It's amazing what will happen to the fan base if we have a really positive summer window where people are excited about the players that come in and the business that's done, and a couple of good results in the league as well. If you get a result where you beat an Arsenal, or you go and you get a draw at Anfield, or any of those kind of things, things that we haven't done for quite a long time, that will very quickly get the fan base on side. And, we won't be thinking too much about Ange. We'll be looking forward with positivity. So there are things that can be done to kind of generate a bit of positive feeling around the fan base for the manager and for the team and what we're trying to achieve. I really would like to see that kind of stuff done. it's also interesting that a lot of the Brentford targets are players that Tottenham actually managed to pinch and managed to get out of the grasp of Brentford, like Brendan Johnson and Archie Gray and things like that. And we tried to rival them for Antonio Nusa and stuff like that. So it feels like we were identifying the same players. And then we were using our greater financial weight and status to get those players away from their clubs and away from Brentford. So these are players that clearly Thomas Frank admired and he will know about and he wanted to work with and he wanted them. So he will know and he'll have a good idea when he gets to the club what he wants to do with those players. So that is a positive and hopefully that works in his favour as well. We've got more resources, so reasons to be cheerful. We've got more resources than Brentford, and so I think that's one of those things that hopefully that will also soften the slow start. So, in previous clubs, it might have taken him some time to get into the players what he wants them to do, but very often a better level and a better quality of player will also assimilate information and take things on and be able to perform at a higher level quicker. That's very common as well. So hopefully that does also stand him in good stead when he gets in the door. That's it. I'll leave it there. Those aren't my predictions, by the way. I'm not predicting these things are going to happen because I think making predictions in football is, it is a mug's game, and that's a great way to get clipped up by someone and look very silly later on in the season. But those would be my minimum expectations. If you've got expectations of what Thomas Frank can do, particularly if you're not feeling super confident and super positive at this moment in time, try to roll it back, have a little think, and then drop in the comments or drop me a message and let me know what you think we should be achieving and what's realistic for Thomas Frank and his coaching staff coming in. I'll leave it there. Let's hope for a positive summer transfer window, and I'm already itching to get into the pre-season friendly so we can watch what he's doing with the team and we can analyse what's happening technically and tactically. Anyway, have a great weekend, everyone. Come on, Tottenham.